Hey, what's up guys? Today we're going to talk about how you can use video games to learn languages. If you're not already doing this, this could be the thing that revolutionizes your language learning and brings you to that next level. I've talked to a number of people who have told me that playing video games was the most useful thing they did for learning their target language. And I can personally attest that it was a huge help for me learning French. Now, there are benefits and risks to this technique, and we're going to discuss those here so that you can make an educated decision about the best path for you. One of my three main goals for this channel is to make language learning fun, because if it's never fun, you will fail. And it doesn't have to be as difficult as we make it sometimes. So let me start with this question. Do you already play video games? If the answer is yes, then it's a no-brainer. You should definitely be using video games to help you with your languages. And if not, you have the potential to pick up a huge new tool for your language learning toolkit. But you have to be careful, because if you do it wrong, not only will you learn nothing, but you will also waste a huge amount of time that you could have used more effectively doing something else. So let's get into some of the benefits and risks. First of all, if you're using video games to study, you will never have to force yourself to study your language. That's why I put so much of an emphasis on making language learning fun. Video games in a foreign language are a type of simulated language immersion. You're basically going to be interacting with other people in a virtual setting, and you'll get exposure to the language the way people actually use it on the street, not just the language that people use in a textbook, which is something that nobody actually talks like. You're going to learn a lot of vocabulary that they just don't teach you in class. And you're going to get a lot of repetition of rare vocabulary. You'll start noticing certain vocabulary words pop up every time you go into a battle, or every time you're in a new town, or whatever it is in that video game. Gaming gives you a context to place your language learning in. So vocabulary words just don't mean the same thing to you if you only see them on a flashcard. You'll remember words better if you have a real-world scenario in which to use them, and this will help you start building the neural connections that are going to help you remember these words. And lastly, playing video games in a different language could just bring a new level of fun to your gaming if you already play. If you really like puzzles or challenges, then playing in a different language could add that extra level of difficulty that will add to your enjoyment. And like I said, there's also risks to playing video games. If you choose the wrong game, then you could play for an enormous amount of time without helping your language learning at all. If you view gaming as studying, then you may use this as an excuse just to justify playing more video games than you normally allow yourself to play. Another factor is that these games are designed for people who are native speakers of the language you're learning. So there's the possibility of drowning yourself in the language if you're a brand new beginner, and especially if you're not super familiar with the game. And I believe there's exceptions to this, but that just depends on the game itself. Now let's talk about what kinds of games to get and where to get them. This goes without saying, but dialogue-based games are going to be much better than action-based games. If you're an advanced learner, then games that are really heavy on the dialogue are going to be great to help you maintain your level. I just recently bought Knights of the Old Republic for $9.99 on the iPad. There's a good deal of action, but there's also a ton of dialogue that takes place in this game. Now, all the spoken audio in the game is in English, but the interface of the game is in French, and all the subtitles are in French. And what I realized is that I was paying more attention to the English audio, but in the settings you can go in and just turn the audio off so that you have only French subtitles, and that's what I did, and it was a huge help to my learning. Obviously there's a spectrum from mostly dialogue-based to mostly action-based, with some gray area in between. But if you choose games that are almost entirely action-based, you're not going to help yourself that much. Obviously, you're not going to learn very much language by playing Mario, because you're not speaking at all, you're just jumping on mushrooms and stuff the whole time. If you're a beginner to the language, then I recommend either children's games that you still find enjoyable, or games that you're already very familiar with. I bought Pokemon Red in Spanish with the Game Boy included for $25 on eBay. The language in this game is basic enough to understand even if you're at a low intermediate level. And if you're really familiar with the game, you'll be able to understand everything that's going on, even if you just have a very basic grasp of the language. Now, where are you going to get these games in other languages? They're not like DVDs where you can just go buy them at Walmart and then put them in the DVD player and change the language in the settings. Now, I don't play a ton of video games on actual consoles, but my understanding is that you can't change the language of most of these games without actually moving to the country where that language is spoken. So what are you going to do to get around this? Well, I get most of my video games off the App Store on my iPad. So the secret to this is you go to the screen that shows all the information about the game that you're about to download. You scroll down to the languages area and it will show all the different languages that the game supports. And you won't always find games that have audio or subtitles in the language that you're learning. But if you're learning one of the more rare languages, then you'll just have to look a little bit longer. But for French, German, Spanish, some of the other major ones, you'll find games all over the place that support the language that you're learning. Then sometimes you'll be able to set the language of the game from inside the app, but other times you'll have to go to your settings and you'll have to find the area that talks about languages and change the language of your iPad or of your phone or tablet or whatever it is, so that the language of the game will automatically change to the language that you're learning. My next recommendation for where to get games, if you're old school like me, is getting a Game Boy game. The only other thing you have to pay attention to is making sure that you get the right language. Because for Game Boy games, the language is specific to the cartridge itself. So I just typed in Pokemon en Español and all these popped up. And if you don't have a Game Boy, just do a quick search for that on eBay and you can see they're not super expensive. Most of them are $20 to $40. Sometimes you might get lucky and get a really cheap one on a bid. But eBay is the best place that I've found for getting Game Boy games. The last place I want to mention where it's easy to get games in other languages is Steam. This is a place where you can download all kinds of different games from the internet, and I'm going to look up Skyrim because I've heard a lot of people say that Skyrim was one of the best games that they've used for learning other languages. Now if you go down here to the right, you'll see all kinds of different languages that the game supports. It'll show you which languages you can set this game to, as far as the interface of the game, the voices and the voice acting, and the subtitles. And you can see here that Skyrim is available in Spanish, English, French, Italian, German, and 9 other languages. And I apologize that my computer is set to Spanish, and I didn't think about this when I was recording the video. But if your computer is set to English or a language that you understand, then you'll be able to understand this portion of the page when you look it up. And there's a lot of games available on Steam, so you should be able to find whatever game you're looking for. And Steam is just a great resource. So I hope this video has helped you think about how you can use video games in your language learning repertoire. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week.